Hello everyone and welcome. Today I have a collection of new Zelda rumors on Breath of the Wild 2 Ocarina of Time HD, which if you've been following our channel you know we've been saying is 100% coming this entire year, just as we did with Skyward Sword HD. For those who may not be familiar with us or think we are making stuff up, here is a new video covering absolutely everything we said would happen with proof of us being correct. Some of the other rumors touch on the Oracle games, Twilight Princess, and more. All of these rumors have been sent to me by some of our amazing viewers and Patreon supporters, and we were asked to give our thoughts on them. Before we begin with some of these new rumors and explain which are true and which are fake, the comment I've been seeing from a few people is that 𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐺𝐬 said, quote, "While we don't have any campaigns or other Nintendo Switch games planned," but we know this is just marketing speak, as he and Miyamoto themselves have literally confirmed other Zelda games were in development. That isn't a rumor or a leak, that is literally coming directly from them during multiple interviews. Yes, he did say nothing else was coming, they have absolutely no plans, just as he, Miyamoto, and many others constantly denied they had plans for Skyward Sword HD. This was the same way they shut down rumors and leaks of Majora's Mask 3D being in development, then revealing it was in development from the moment Ocarina of Time 3D was finished. They denied the Link's Awakening remake was in development when those rumors were absolutely everywhere. They stated they had absolutely no plans and would never be releasing any of their games on cell phones, then almost immediately invested almost $200 million to purchase a large portion of the company DNA, as well as giving DNA ownership of a small percentage of Nintendo to officially work with them to make mobile phone games. Then they began multiple other partnerships with other companies to help them create even more mobile phone games. You can easily search and find dozens and dozens of examples just like this. Nintendo denying the DS would replace the Game Boy family of consoles, just as they said the Switch would not replace the Wii U, and they would continue supporting the Wii U and 3DS alongside the life of the Switch, then literally porting almost every major Wii U game to Switch, and immediately ending production of the console. However, my personal favorite, they also said fans wouldn't have to worry about purchasing a Nintendo 3DS, and then a second model or XL edition releasing soon after. In his own words, Miyamoto said the Nintendo DS had so many revisions and upgrades because they kept finding ways to improve it. However, with the 3DS, it already had a perfect design, thanks to all of the original DS revisions, and they would not be releasing other versions. Then, less than a few months later, they announced the Nintendo 3DS XL, and of course, this was followed by the 2DS, new 2DS XL, new 3DS, and new 3DS XL. So when we were told by Nintendo they would not be releasing additional versions of the 3DS, and not to worry, you can go out and buy your 3DS without fear of a better model releasing, they actually ended up releasing 5 additional versions. This is what not just Nintendo, but PlayStation, Xbox, and countless other companies, even outside of the entertainment industry, are legally required to do. Unless the employee wants to be fired, fined, and likely not be able to work another position in the same industry because they decided it was a good idea to break their NDA, these companies pay their marketing teams millions and millions of dollars to think of the best day and the best way to announce and release these games. So of course they are going to deny everything and try their best to debunk any and all rumors. Now, with that history lesson out of the way, the Oracle collection. First, we had rumors everywhere claiming the game would be announced as a 2-game collection at E3. We had multiple versions of this rumor that came and went. Some said it was close to being finished by 𝐓𝐻𝐻, who reused the Link's Awakening engine, and one of the newest leakers, Marco Maro, don't know if I pronounced that right. And before you start thinking that he's wrong about everything, yes, he was correct in the past on some things, is claiming, quote, "As I state a year ago, there's a remake for Oracle of Ages and Seasons in the works, 2022-2023. There were plans to include a third game that was planned originally for the Game Boy Color. What it's clear, at least since the start, it's that will be separate releases. So obviously, there are a bit of typos in here, making it overall kind of hard to read, but I passed this along to several other Zelda YouTube content creators, and we all felt it was saying the same thing. My response to this is no, no, no. So let's take a quick look at the history of this leaker. This same leaker stated these games would release in 2022, then switched it to 2023, hinted at reveals in 2021 that never happened. Breath of the Wild 2 would release in the 4th quarter of 2020 or the 1st quarter of 2021. He even said they have Wind Waker HD prepared to release just in case Breath of the Wild 2 is delayed. And obviously neither of those came. The Metroid Prime trilogy also got several different release dates for the first half of 2020, again in 2021, and he is now saying 2022, as well as giving Metroid Prime 4 similar release windows. He said a full Zelda collection would be coming in the second half of 2021, along with Zelda Wii U ports. Then they give a new date for it 6 months or a year later. Some people who have screenshotted or even linked back to all of his past wrong leaks, apparently they've been blocked, even if they're not saying anything negative, simply asking why so many different release dates didn't happen, or why when one of these announcement windows came and went, he just changed it to the next year. We have many more examples just like this. But let's look at his recent tweet about 3 Oracle games releasing. So most fans know that the 2 Oracle games were meant to be 3 different games instead of just 2. However, when they realized this wasn't realistic, they actually took the dungeons, puzzles, bosses, and other concepts and ideas from the 3rd game and implemented them into the other 2 games. So if they were to give us 3 games for this remake collection, a large part of the 3rd game would be exactly like parts of the other 2. And again, no, there are no plans to release them separately. Mostly because there are no current plans to release them at all, let alone at the same time or one after the other, like with Mario 3D All-Stars and then, later on, Mario 3D World. If they were to release, it would be the same as with the originals or Pokemon, where you can buy each game on its own, or you can buy a limited double pack that would have cases and games for each, like this. Other leakers, who also claim to be credible, are stating it is already finished and waiting on the right time to release. So already, between known leakers, who have all been correct on certain things, we have each claiming the exact opposite of each other. Just as I told everyone not to believe the old rumors, and even said I would eat a shoe if they were to be revealed at E3, I would not put any faith in these rumors. I have a great video in the card that popped up on the screen just now, as well as the description below, that explains in great detail and provides facts and evidence as to why these rumors for the Oracle games are just not true. We are not getting an Oracle collection remade with Link's Awakening engine. I do have more to say about this, including some things that we haven't mentioned on the podcast or any other videos yet, so I'll be making a separate video in a day or so that goes more in depth. Because do I think they will happen? Yes, obviously. Do I think they're going to be releasing this year or next year? Not likely. Especially not this year. But as soon as this video uploads, I will be starting on the video specifically about the Oracle games and everything that I have heard and found concerning those games. Next, we have multiple people claiming they know Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD are both coming. Some of them stating they will release in a new collection with a 3rd game, and no, again, not at all. As we stated earlier, we have multiple leaks on these games from Markham Aro, like with Wind Waker HD, him saying it is already finished and ready to be released in 2020, just in case Breath of the Wild 2 is delayed past 2020 and into 2021. Obviously, we never had Breath of the Wild 2 release, and we never had a Wind Waker HD release in 2020. So he changed it a couple of times to being announced or released in 2021, alongside not only Twilight Princess HD, but a completely separate Zelda collection. However, we do have other leakers such as Andy Robinson, who has written for various well-known video game magazines and websites, as well as worked on the Yooka-Laylee series. He put out a tweet after the February Nintendo Direct stating, "For those disappointed with the Skyward Sword remaster, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess are 100% coming this year." So that's at least one good 3D Zelda. Then we have Nate Drake stating Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask are all expected before the end of 2021, but doesn't know if they are the N64 versions or 3DS versions. From the information that I've received about Ocarina of Time from people that have proven to be working with Nintendo, I was just confused on how someone might know that Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are being worked on for the Nintendo Switch, but doesn't know if it is an HD remaster. of the 3DS games or a simple port of the N64 versions, as the Nintendo 64 version would instantly be able to be emulated with minor fixes and would be ready to go almost instantly, whereas 3DS versions would require a small team and at least a month or so, unless they plan on changing a lot, which we hope they do for Majora's Mask to fix some of the changes that didn't need to be made in the original remake. Since we are now bringing up Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, these are the two games that I have actually been stating would be coming since the beginning of the year. I will say I did originally think it would have come out for either Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask's 20th anniversary, but that was a couple of years ago before we were able to make the connections that I have now. And for those who just rolled their eyes, you can click the video in the description for dozens of correct leaks with proof on screen. Yes, I know at least 2 or 3 of you are typing that this sounds like I'm bragging, and I'm not trying to. It's just literally the only way to prove that what we are saying is true, as, again, anyone can say something in a video without proof. But we do our best to prove we weren't just making stuff up. Otherwise, we would have crazy rumors about every gaming franchise releasing almost every day, instead of only focusing on Zelda videos, and only having a few different rumor videos per month. And we wouldn't ignore most other rumors that people mention so we can get your views. I have another video that you can click here, also in the description, that details some of the events of us claiming Ocarina of Time HD was coming. At first, even Daniel, one of the co-hosts on our podcast, the 𝐓𝐼𝐧𝐬𝐭𝐭𝐞𝐫, didn't even believe it was true. It started with a good friend asking if I had covered the new Ocarina of Time trademarks that were just filed. At first, I felt we could just mention it on the podcast and not make a dedicated video on it, but a few days later, I received a random email telling me to check out 𝐓𝐻𝐻𝐿 and some other stuff. I made my video about what I was told and found out. Then, because of that video, I received a bunch of obvious fake rumor and leaks, but one stood out, which we made this video about, and it had a lot of detailed inside information that a lot of people wouldn't know unless they did have the job this person claimed they had. After this, more fake stuff came in, and then I received another email that stood out. This time with a different person who had a similar position, and they actually corrected a few things the first person had said, and originally seen our video mentioning localization and the writing process and thought we were going to talk about fake made up nonsense or clickbait. But they were surprised with how accurate the video actually was. Then he heard Daniel and I mentioning that we knew certain other things about Breath of the Wild 2, but didn't want to talk about it, so we didn't ruin any of the trust we had built up in some relationships that we have with others who may or may not work on the game. Despite some people in the live chat getting upset, being negative, and even unsubscribing, where if we were making stuff up for clickbait and to get views, we would not just be saying everything we could to keep them subscribed, but we would even be making up stuff just to get more views and clickbait everyone. Yet, we were doing the exact opposite. Instead of clickbaiting and making stuff up for more views, subscribers, or money, we were refusing to say certain things, even though it meant getting less views, causing people to unsubscribe and receiving a lot of hate mail, name calling, and just about everything else you can think of. So all of this, and how accurate the first report was, made this guy trust us enough to give us even more details about Breath of the Wild 2. And he also mentioned Ocarina of Time and Metroid Prime. We made the video about his email and the things he approved we could talk about, and the most insane email in the world came in a few days later. Though only related to Nintendo and Skyward Sword HD, this time it was actually the people from Amazon and Nintendo who were partnering for the Skyward Sword HD 35th anniversary celebration that was just recently announced, and took place on the 30th. And this was months ago before anyone else knew. They said they were fans of the podcast, the YouTube channel, the way we handled information and portrayed ourselves. What about new Zelda games though? As for 𝐴𝐽𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐿 statement on not announcing anything else for 2021, yes, this could be true. Plans change all the time. We have one incident where we went what seemed like a year or longer without an update on the original Breath of the Wild. Rumors started going around that Nintendo would be showing off a new trailer at the upcoming New York Comic-Con that year. When that day finally came, 𝐴𝐽𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐿 was asked about Breath of the Wild during an interview, and he stated that he actually had a new trailer that he was excited to show off. But on the same day they were going to release it, he had a change of heart, thinking it wasn't ready to be shown. So even at a huge event like Comic-Con, where they had people spend who knows how many days playing through the finished segments of the game to record footage, having people work on looking through and editing all of the gameplay, coming up with what talking points they wanted to make and which details they wanted to reveal or promote, and which questions to answer and not answer, then having others go through and translate all of that and record the second audio, and knowing that it was the most anticipated game that fans wanted, and they were starving for literally anything, at the very last minute, on the day, he just decided he didn't feel like showing it. So yes, big or small, plans change all the time, even after multiple people spending a week or longer working on it, and planning it months in advance to be your biggest announcement at a major event. So yes, Aonuma could actually be being honest with them having no more plans. Sort of. However, the more likely scenario is being aware of the rumors, and yes, Nintendo has cancelled major plans and projects in the past for them leaking out, such as the Zelda and Star Fox Netflix series that was confirmed due to them leaking, and no longer being a surprise. We think they wanted to put all of the attention on Skyward Sword HD for this year due to the negative fan feedback that came with each new trailer or details revealed for the game, and not wanting Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, or another Zelda game to overshadow it, or make people switch their pre-order to the other Zelda games. A second option, they are saving them to be the big surprise for the next big event, or Nintendo Direct, like they have done multiple times before. I said Aonuma sort of could be telling the truth. This is because he himself has confirmed other Zelda games that are in development, such as the new 2D Zelda game that we made this video on. No, again, that isn't a rumor or a leak, that is Aonuma and Miyamoto both confirming and giving small details about the game. We know Age of Calamity story DLC is being worked on, we know Monolith Soft is working on their own Zelda project, we know 𝐓𝐻𝐻 is not only working on at least one new Zelda game, but likely began working on new Zelda games right after Link's Awakening, which just recently finished before beginning work on this new one. We know they confirmed a new Zelda mobile game was being worked on from years ago after Mario Kart and Animal Crossing's mobile games. They likely also have some of the rumored and leaked games still being worked on, unless already done. And who knows what kind of other interesting, smaller, or third-party projects they have, similar to Cadence of Hyrule. Also, after saying they had no further plans, just recently, again, they announced plans for their celebration of Skyward Sword and the Zelda series as a whole, and went through awesomely with their partnership with Amazon.